Many of you remember that about a month ago, after I had a CAT scan on my heart, my cardiologist came very, very alarmed and let me know that was in odd that I had a serious heart defect. I have the widowmaker, which means that I should have been dead by now or I could die any minute. The interesting thing about it, as I reflect back during that month, and honestly, I remember someone saying, pray for you. And I realized, I spent my whole life praying for people and I never ever even prayed about this. So why? How did I face this? The interesting thing were the questions or the statements of people of good faith that said to me. One person said, God's not done with you. Another person said, you're a man of tremendous faith, so don't worry, God's going to heal you. The third person said, if you believe in God, how can this happen to you? Another one said, really? You said that God is real, and then all of a sudden here you are doing all this for God and this happens to you? Truth of the matter is, none of those questions ever came to me. I smiled at them. Because see, the interesting thing for me is that nowhere in the Bible, nowhere in anything that I read tells me that troubles will not come my way. Troubles will come my way. As a matter of fact, there's a letter from this Jewish author that said, when troubles come your way, rejoice. Think about it. Why do we rejoice at a trouble that comes our way? Well, it's interesting because for me, the reason that I rejoice at that trouble is because how I get to face that trouble and how I get to use that opportunity to help others that are going through horrific situations and troubles in their lives. Listen, trouble will come our way. Trouble is coming our way. It's just how we face that trouble. The sad part for me forever has been how some, evangelical leaders have manipulated people by saying, send us money and God's going to make you rich. Or I need a bigger jet because God says that how can I have such a puny jet? And do this and God will do this for you. Well, God is not a conditional God. The truth of the matter is that, listen, God might decide to heal me or he might not. Or I have no idea. I have no idea why bad things happen to bad people. They happen all the time. I see good women that want to have babies that can't. And then I see whores in crack houses having babies left and right. And I see so much trouble in the world. So why now? Why before, when the same trouble existed? As a matter of fact, somehow I think that it was less trouble back then, existed. I did not care about God or even care about that situation. But today that I believe in God, that I believe I'm in God's hands, I don't care how it happens or what he chooses, because the truth is I cannot control that outcome. But here's what's really critical. What I can control is how I choose, or through what mindset I choose to face that news. Do I choose to face that news and abandon God and say, how, God, why me? Or why did you choose to create me like this? Or what a joke this is? On and on. So many things I could say bad and just walk away from God and go back to my whole life. Listen, my whole life was fun. Sin is fun. Living a life of debauchery was fun, but it was empty. It was destroying me. It brought me no joy. So I could go back to that life, or I could just cling on further to God and say, that will be done. See? And that's what's critical for me, because I realize if I am in God's hands, I shall have no fear. I recently read the transcript, and I urge you, read the transcript of Flight 93, the flight where Todd Beamer is talking to the 911 operator and telling him about what's going on and how that airplane was headed for the Capitol or headed for, the White House. Think about it. Think about what would have happened to our country if the White House was destroyed or the Capitol was destroyed. Think hard about that. We hardly even think about that flight. Why? Because we commemorate the Twin Towers in New York. We think about the Pentagon because it was the heart of our military. But we don't think about a little flight that was brought down in Pennsylvania by a group of men that have faith in God. Think about it. What's interesting is Todd Beamer went to the same college, Wheaton College, that I went to. And the interesting thing about it, as he realized that they were going to die and that flight was headed to kill so many, many more innocent people, he and 3 and 4 other guys made a choice. And they were going to take that plane down. And when you hear the transcript, it is so powerful because you listen to him talk to the operator. And then you talk to the FBI agent. And then you hear him say at the end, would you do me one more favor, Lisa? It is funny that Lisa was also his wife's name. would you do me one more favor? Would you pray for me? And they both prayed the Lord's Prayer. And then on top of that, he prayed Psalm 23. Though I walk through the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. Interesting. Here's a kid who was a very strong Christian that went to a Christian college. And instead of at that moment in life when he knew he was going to die, instead of saying, save me, God, or why me, or be angry at God, he makes the solid and strong choice. He's going to bring that plane down. And when he finishes prayer, he looks at the rest of the men, says, you ready? And they nod, and he said, let's roll. And then history tells us the rest of the story. The plane went down. The Capitol and the White House were spared. Ain't that something? So what is really important about having faith, and having faith in God, not having faith in rules, having faith in a certain denomination and a certain religion, having faith in God, is that at the moment of choices, at the moment that those bad troubles come our way, those challenges, we have a choice to make. And when you are truly, truly a person of faith, or as you grow in your faith, and as you develop a very strong mindset, then the choice that you make is made without fear. Because the opposite of fear is faith. See? I don't know if by the end of this video I will die. I don't know if I die tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to die at 95. I don't know how I'm going to die or when I'm going to die. I know I am, and we all are. And when I told the doctor, when he said, why don't you have any, you're not stressed out. I said, Doc, because I have no fear. See, I believe that I'm going to win no matter what. And I said, and I looked at him and said, you know what, Doc? He said, what? I said, you too will die. And he's like, yeah, but I don't have a heart defect. I said, nowhere does it say that you need to have a heart defect to die. So therefore, I have no fear, and my life is a win-win. What is a win-win for me? Well, if I die, I'm going to see my parents. I'm going to see a couple good friends that died young that I missed tremendously. And for me, as a follower of Jesus, I'm going to see Jesus. I'm going to see God. And if I live, I'm going to stay with my wife, my children. And I'm dying to see my children grow up. I'm dying to see my grandchildren that I love so much grow up. And then I looked at the doctor and said, Doc, and you know what? If faith is a bunch of baloney, if what I believe is just a joke, and there is no God, there is no heaven, there is no parents to see, I guess I'll become fertilizer just like you. But then at that moment, I don't have to worry about it. It's too late to worry about it. So see, my brothers, my sisters, troubles is going to come your way. It is. But the interesting thing about troubles is like something, a small video that I made recently about the story that, of those two kids and the very, very wealthy Jewish father. And one kid asked for his inheritance and went and just blew it all away with women, with drinking, debauchery. The other kid decided to stay and work his butt off because he did not want to let his father down. The one that went off ended up losing it all, ended up finding himself at a point where he was literally starving to death. And he said, my father's slaves eat better than I do. Yeah, I've sinned against God and I've sinned against my father. I will return and I'll ask him to treat me just like a slave. But as he was headed home, his father saw him. And his father ran to him and ordered his servants to kill a cow and to throw a big feast. See, when he came up to the father was full of joy. The son asked for forgiveness. The father didn't even mention anything the son had done. Oh, he said, son, you were gone, now you're home. But you see, 51% of our children or more are growing up in a home where many, many fathers had just left them. I mean, look, challenges in marriages come and divorces happen. But it's not a reason for a man to abandon his children. I was divorced twice. Never abandoned my children. But a lot of them have. But I'm here to tell those children that when you wonder why God will let your father leave you, it's not your fault. None of it is your fault. People are selfish and people make bad choices. But the good news is that there is a God. There is a real, real Father that will never, ever leave you. And will take you just the way you are. If you've been angry at me because what happened, feeling abandoned, feeling unwanted, and you've done something that you're not proud of, forget about them. Because your Father, when you run to Him, your real Father will not remember those things. He will love you. He will give you the strength. And if you want it bad, He'll help you to turn those bad choices into positive things. I'm so convinced of that. See, that is the world that we live in today. Bad things happen to us, and they happen all the time. All you got to do is be alive. And then we'll make a choice based upon the bad that happens. And then the choice is, do we turn away from God because He did not answer our prayers? Or how could He love me because He allowed this cancer, this horrible thing to happen to me? Or He allowed my father to leave me? You know? Or many, many things. Truth of the matter is, I have no idea. None. I have no answers. I have no solutions. But I do have this. I have a mindset that I want you to get. A mindset that will help you to look at that not as something that is the end of this earth, but a bad that you can deal. You can become better for it. And you can change your life. So see, my brother and sister, when bad things come to you, they will. Choose to trust the Father who is in heaven, who loves you and will never leave you down. Be blessed.